Greetings, and welcome back to my Pokémon Revolution Online guide. Last episode we had just beaten Giovanni, so there's 8 badges under our belt, so it's time to challenge the Elite Four. But before we journey all the way through the Indigo Plateau, you might want to consider something else first. Evie training. Now, let me explain a bit first. When you catch a Pokémon and look at its stats, you'll notice that it has IVs and EVs. IVs stand for individual values. IVs are fixed, that's it for your Pokémon. That's basically how the Pokémon was born. There's nothing you can do to change it. Ideally what you want is a Pokémon to have like high 20s or even 31 in the specific stats that you want, but we'll go more into that later. As far as IVs are concerned in Pokémon Revolution Online, it's pretty much random and up to chance. You just have to hope that it'll have good stats in the areas that you want. One area you do have an effect on is its nature. Now obviously when you catch the Pokémon and it's docile, that's it forever, you can't change its nature. But if you put a synchronized Pokémon, say a Natu, in the first slot in your party, then there's a 50% chance that the Pokémon that you encounter will be of the nature of that Natu. So if you want to catch a really good Rattata, put an adamant Natu in front, etc, etc. So that's Pokémon nature and IVs sorted. Now for the main bulk of this video, EVs. No, not that kind of Evie. Well, they stand for effort value. You notice that your Pokémon will have an EV number next to each stat. The way it works in Pokémon is when you defeat a wild monster in battle, you'll gain some EVs to a particular stat. It depends entirely on what the Pokémon is that you're fighting. For example, if you're fighting Diglets or Dugtrios, when you defeat them, you'll gain some points into your speed EV. For beating a Diglett, you'll get 1 speed EV. For beating a Dugtrio, you'll get 2 speed EVs. The general gist of the way that it works is that if you beat a Pokémon in its first evolutionary form, you'll get 1 to their particular EV. And if you beat their second form, you'll get 2, and if you beat their third form, you'll get 3. There are obviously Pokémon that give mixed stats, but as a basic rule, that will suffice. So now you know how to increase effort values. You might have to do a bit of research to find out which Pokémon give you which effort values. For this example, let's say we're going to make this Pidgey into a physical sweeper. That means it's going to have a high attack value and a high speed value. As mentioned before, Diglets and Dugtrios are good for speed, as are Zubats and Golbats. You'll find lots of Diglets, Dugtrios and Zubats in the Diglett Cave. As for the attack EVs, I'd recommend Route 12 and defeating Bellsprouts and Weeping Bells. Since we're talking about EV hotspots, let's talk about the other stats too. If you wanted to train the hit point EV, I would fight against the Caterpies and Hoothoots in the Viridian Forest. If you wanted to train the defense EV, fight against the Metapods and Kakunas, again in the Viridian Forest. If you want to improve your special attack, defeat Odysseus and Abras on Route 5. And finally, special defense, I'd say go to Route 19 or 20 and defeat Tentacles or Tentacruels. So now you know how to train the stats. What do you do with them? Well, the maximum number of EVs that a Pokémon can have is 510. And the maximum number of EVs you can have in a specific stat is 252. So make sure to put 252 in the 2 main stats you want. In our example, it's attack and speed, and that will leave you with 6 spare stats to put wherever you want. Usually hit points or defense or something. But what do EVs actually do? Well, for every 4 EVs you have in a specific stat, your Pokémon will gain +1 to that stat. So 252 divided by 4 is 63. That means you can improve a stat by up to 63 just by EV training. It's quite a substantial amount. As for IVs, for every 1 IV you have, that's actually 1 stat point, so you can have up to 31 in each stat for that. You don't get the full benefit of all your EVs and IVs until level 100 though. There is another way to increase your EVs. What you can do is feed your Pokémon various supplements. HP up increases hit point EVs, protein increases attack, iron increases defense, calcium increases special attack, zinc increases special defense, and carbos increases speed. But wait, you've got all the way to the Elite Four and you've not done any EV training, so what kind of effort values do your Pokémon have? They'll probably be all over the place and just averaged out a bit, and they might do. You can probably defeat the Elite Four if you get your Pokémon to like level 85 and 90 without EV training. But obviously it would help a lot. What you can do to reduce any EVs that you've already gained is using EV reducing berries. These can be found in various places, including the Berry Tower and the Viridian Maze. All you need to do is feed these to your Pokemon, and it will reduce the EVs in that particular stat for your Pokemon. Pomegg reduces hit points, Kelpsea reduces attack, Quarlot reduces defense, Honeydew for special attack, Grepper for special defense, and Tomato for speed. In Kanto, it will take quite a while to EV train your entire team, so I'd recommend picking 3 specific Pokemon that could defeat the majority of the Elite Four and fully EV train them. I'd hold off EV training an entire team until Johto, because then you can get the Macho Brace. The Macho Brace does reduce their speed by half, but you do get twice the amount of EVs per fainted Pokemon, so it's well worth waiting. There are some people who try and EV train as they're progressing through the game for the first time, and well, you can. I didn't. I waited to the end and just fed them a load of berries. They are quite hard to come by and they are quite expensive though. But as I said, you might only need 3 Pokemon to be fully EV trained, and you probably can take the Kanto Elite Four with a team of 85 to 90s that aren't EV trained if you wanted to. But yes, that's EV training. I hope that helped, and I'll see you for the next episode when we talk about defeating the Elite Four. See you then, guys.